Hi, everyone. Welcome to Talk Back. This is Thursday, July 24th, and I'm having guests today in a continuing series on Senior Resources Agency on Aging. You know, so many things in our society today depend on our neighbors and our helpers. And Senior Resources is so wonderful in our community because there are so many things that they are able to help you with. And like anything else, some things fall between the cracks. There's always something in the organization that needs extra help. And today we're going to talk about one facet of Senior Resources in our community that goes the extra mile to set up something a little bit more special. And now my guest will tell you what that's all about. And that's what our topic is today. Okay, because we want you to learn more about what Senior Resources has to offer. So my guests today are Beth Varus. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Okay, Beth is a service navigator at Senior Resources. She has had a career in working with seniors. She also had a career in gardening, and she's come back to working in this field. And she is a social worker by training. And Joan Marshall. Hi, Joan.
Hi.
Good to see you. You've been here before in another show about what Senior Resources does, right? And you will have a master's in social work, and you've always worked in this field. And the two of you, I guess, are partners as service navigators for Senior Resources. So first of all, Joan, just give a small overview about what Senior Resources does. Then we'll get to service navigator.
So Senior Resources is one of 5 agencies on aging in Connecticut, and we are mandated through the Older Americans Act, and we provide a lot of information and referral. We help people find resources. One of our primary functions is helping people make insurance decisions. We have a choices department that helps people with Medicare, Medicaid, and applying for other benefits. And then we have some caregiver support programs. And then we have service navigators that help with all of the other things and help people actually access the programs that are out there.
Okay, so what is the age limit? What are seniors considered? At what age can you access the services?
Really at any age, because we help caregivers. So if we have someone who's in their 20s, 30s, 40s who's helping care for someone who's older or disabled, we help those individuals. And we're really geared towards helping people who are aging, which is really all of us, and people who have disabilities. So there's no age cutoff. Some of our programs do require that someone be 55 or 60 or older, but that varies from program to program. Mm-hmm. And certainly things like the Medicare information apply to anybody who is qualified for Medicare. So that can be somebody with disabilities or somebody who's 65 or older.
So that's very important to know. So if you see Senior Resources, you might say, oh, I can't access that. But as you said, if you're a caregiver or if you're a grandparent, maybe, you're raising a grandchild, do you know that Senior Resources is someplace where you can go for support or for help or even for programs where you might get some financial aid of some type, right?
Yes.
So I think that's a very important point. Don't say just because it says Senior Resources that you as a younger person can't take advantage of it for someone in your family or even for yourself as a caregiver or caretaker of some kind.
Yep.
So that's a very, very good point. All right, so Beth, why don't you define, Joan touched on it. Why don't you define what a service navigator is and when that was established as a portfolio in Senior Resources?
So I believe the position was created in 2022.
Yep.
So it's fairly recent, the last few years.
Yes, it's a fairly new program. And so Joan was our original service navigator hired back in 2022. And then in 2020, end of 23, beginning of 24, there was the agencies were told that there was some state funding to have a second service navigator position on each of the agencies on aging. So I applied for the position and started in February of 2024. And so service navigation, we are basically, kind of as the name says, we're helping people demystify the whole process of connecting to the different programs, or whatever, things that they need to meet the goals that they're looking to meet. basically people calling us with, I need some help in my home, or I'm a caregiver, my loved one's been diagnosed with dementia, and I really need some supports. So we are kind of the people helping them navigate to those proper programs.
Let's figure out how it's helpful now, because before your position was created in 2022, what did people do? Who was there to answer those questions that you just said, Joan?
So one of the things I think that was really hard is that a lot of our staff are attached to a program. So in order to get in-depth information, someone would have to qualify for a program, and then they would have a case manager assigned or whatever. So we have the luxury of helping people on an in-depth basis who don't qualify for any program possibly, or who are trying to access a program. And in the past, I think people would get limited information and sort of be guided towards a program. Now we can really provide ongoing support in accessing a program.
So you become almost their advocates.
Yep.
Somebody has a problem, and it's not easily solved by saying, turn to this one person in this program.
Right.
You have to do more work. So I think it would be helpful, I'd like from each of you to give me an example. I think I asked you to, it can be a real example without anybody's name attached to it, but give me an example of somebody making that call and how does it get to you?
Okay.
How does it get to you? And give me an example of what you do from beginning to end. You start, and then I'd like to get one from each of you.
So, oh goodness, there are all kinds of different scenarios. One of them, I guess, would be a family member called me about her parents and said that her dad had a lot of physical limitations. Her mom was in a wheelchair, and he was trying to function as her full-time caregiver. So we were able to help them access our caregiver respite program and got some limited services involved to help him care for her. And then we were able to look at their financial situation and figure out that they would qualify for the Connecticut Home Care Program, which is another program that provides a lot more support than we can. It's state funded, it's DSS funded, so there's more money. And we were able to work through the application process, which is pretty extensive, and help get them on that program. And we were able to connect them with some other resources in the community to get durable medical equipment, to get an electric wheelchair, to get a Hoyer lift. So it was sort of looking, as Beth said, looking at the goals that they had, which was to remain at home and to be able to function as independently as possible. So having the support services and then the necessary equipment so that they could do things as much on their own as they could was their goal that we helped them meet.
Okay, so it sounds like everybody that calls should get help, should get an advocate to follow through with their programs. So, Beth, how do you decide who needs the Service Navigator program?
So it kind of is when people call the direct number, like and they, a lot of times are just saying, I need to find a caregiver, or so it gets sent to, it's assigned to us, basically. So if someone is not really sure exactly what they need, but they need some kind of caregiving support, then we're usually, the first line of defense. The first
the interesting the interesting thing that you said, Joan, was that you're going to help them access not just the senior resources programs, but anything out in the community, federal, state, local, that could also help them. And you'll help make the applications for that.
Yep.
So in a sense, you're there, you're guiding them, you're their agent or their assistant. I mean, you're navigating through all of the different programs that could be available to that individual person. Right. So, yeah.
So if someone calls and says, okay, I need an application, and we send them the application and they say, okay, thank you, I can do this, then that would be the end of the interaction. I think the service navigation really comes into play when someone says, okay, I've looked at this, I need help figuring out what to do, what documents to include, asking for additional support. Right. So I think that's sort of the decision tree is more what people identify as the needs that they have.
So is it the person who answers the phone at Senior Resources who makes a determination to send that call to you? How does the call get to you?
Oh, a lot of the initial calls come to us, and then we sort of make that decision as to whether it's a one-time contact or a more ongoing, in-depth
So you have, you have a
interaction.
separate number or separate?
So we have Aging Answers, which is sort of the catch-all for people who call in with questions. And then those calls are sort of triaged based on whether the person is already connected to a program, whether they have questions about certain topics. We have an information and referral staff person who handles mostly housing and transportation questions, and then Beth and I would handle more of the caregiving and sort of in-depth navigating the whole system
But
questions.
somebody is trained at Senior Resources to get those calls to you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That,
Yep.
that's important.
The
You
Aging
don't-
Answers
Yeah.
person is the
Right,
one
right.
who kind of
Okay.
looks at all the calls and figures out where to assign them.
Okay. All right, Beth, why don't you give us an example? Joan gave us one. Why don't you give us an example?
So a lot of times we see people that we refer to as solo agers, so seniors that don't have family, or they don't have a family or a support system that's local and near them that's able to help them. And so some of the benefits that they're looking to access, it's a very complicated process. And so this person is trying to do that process on their own. I had a woman that reached out to me, and she, at that time, needed assistance with some of her personal care, but had surgery that was going to be scheduled, hip surgery, and she knew she was going to need even more. And she had a friend that was kind of helping her, but that was her only support system. So I helped her to apply for the home care program. And then the next step is that she hears from the access agency that oversees the program, and they schedule an initial assessment. Well, she never received a phone call, and she was calling me, and I don't know what's going on. So I helped with the whole process of trying to figure out what happened to her referral. Come to find out, it had been sent to the wrong access agency. So while we were waiting to figure all that out, I faxed in another referral, and I got word from DSS saying, we're so sorry that the application got sent to the wrong access agency. And then she was contacted by the access agency to set up her initial assessment, and when she called back, a month went by before she was able to hear back from them to schedule an appointment. So I had to reach out and, by an act of God, connected with somebody and was able to schedule her assessment. So 2 months went by between us referring her to the program and her getting the first step of her initial assessment. And I cannot imagine she would have been able to work through that process on her own. So I was kind of...
That's too bad. The system is so backed up that way.
It's not always that way, but it does happen
But you were
more
able
frequently
to
than we
help.
would like.
Yeah.
But
So what would you say, Joan, are the greatest needs that you see out there that are unfulfilled by the programs that you have? Like there's a need for more of something.
I think there's definitely a need for more funding for caregiving support. There are a lot of people out there providing care to loved ones, family members, friends, whatever, and they are really struggling. There's not enough support. They are frequently having to quit a job and not getting paid. So more funding for home care, for caregiver support, and sort of looking at that whole dynamic of informal caregivers and the role that they are playing.
So how many older citizens do you see at home alone, not in a nursing home, not affording care coming into their home, and who don't have a relative or a friend to help them? Is that what's going on in our country now? There are people who just don't get the home care they need?
Absolutely. And I think partly it's the cost. Home care is expensive, and sort of our role is helping people figure out what supports are out there for them. Is there a program that they could qualify for to help pay for the services? If they have to private pay, what's the best way to go about that? I think there are a lot of people who are really just struggling to make it through the day safely because they don't know how to access those services.
Okay, so tell us,
that's
let
what we
people
can do.
know now. First of all, let's put the telephone number of Senior Resources up on the screen. What's the number?
860-887-3561.
860-887-3561. 888-888-5861.
Correct.
Can we put that up on the screen? So that's the main number that you would
Yes.
call, and then you would get routed to whatever
Aging
part of the
Answers.
agency
Yep.
would do it. So let people know, what programs are there now? If people are out there saying, I have a home care issue. What programs do we have now that help people, that you can access for them?
So if someone is, as Beth described, a solo ager, they don't have any informal supports, probably the first thing to access would be services through a visiting nurse agency that would be ordered by their primary care physician if they're having a medical issue or a change in medications.
And then there are financial costs.
No, if the services are funded, if the services are ordered by a primary care physician and there is a medical need, the services would be funded by Medicare if they are
okay.
Medicare beneficiaries.
But they have to be able to qualify.
So Medicare is what you get with Social Security.
Right.
So that's easy enough. But
Right.
yes, they would have to qualify for the services
They had
based
other
on a medical need.
They had certain amount of assets. They might not be able to qualify for that.
No, because Medicare is not a needs-based program. Medicare is just
Okay.
connected with Social Security. Medicaid is the state-funded medical insurance that does have income and asset tests.
So we want people to know that there are some programs where there are no income limitations, perhaps.
Right.
And there are other programs where maybe there are.
Correct.
Okay, and so you have to find out about that. There's so much to go through. So what other kind of
So that's what we
programs are there?
do, is if someone were to call and say, I need help, we would try to figure out, is there a medical need? Would they qualify for Medicare benefits? If not, then we would talk about their financial situation and figure out, would they qualify for something like the home care program?
Okay.
If not, we would talk to them about private pay options, finding a home care agency that covers their town, what to expect in terms of that process, how to make those phone calls, the questions to ask. If someone does have an informal caregiver, then our agency has several caregiver support programs that can provide some limited services to support that caregiver. And it doesn't have to be someone who's involved on a daily basis. We have individuals who apply to the caregiver program because they live out of state and they are calling their mom every day, 3 times a day, to remind her to take her pills. So we may be able to get services in there, perhaps a medication monitoring machine, so that the machine reminds mom and calls the family member if the meds aren't taken. So there are a lot of nuances to what we can do, what the eligibility looks like. So I would really encourage people to call the number and talk to one of us about what the situation is, what the goals are, and then we can help figure out what would meet them.
So it's very important that you go beyond what Senior Resources they have great programs, but you even go beyond that to see what can fit that person's problem.
Right.
That's excellent. So you give us another. Joan mentioned home care. You give us another area where you think people are calling you most. What are the topics that are most problematic for people?
Yes, so besides looking for caregiving services, a lot of times we get calls from people. I just spoke to someone 2 days ago saying that they had just come back and their husband had been assessed and was diagnosed with dementia. And they, I'm sure once they hear that, they kind of panic and, they want to know what happens now. So a lot of times we're helping them figure out different supports. This person, asked about support groups, and so I sent her out some information on some support groups near where they live. And then we talked a little bit about preparing for, down the line when she may need to have some long-term services coming in the home to help care for her loved one, about, talking to an attorney or just planning ahead for when they may need to apply for Medicaid and programs that can help.
So what program specifically does Senior Resources have in the field of people just beginning with dementia issues?
So part of our caregiver respite program, it's 2 programs, and one is our Connecticut statewide respite care program, which provides people who have that dementia diagnosis and they have an informal caregiver. It provides some respite for for the caregiver while also supporting the person that they care for. And those respite services can be used for funding maybe a day a week at an adult day program. It can be used for, services coming in, maybe take them out, have some companionship, give their caregiver a break that way. And then our respite programs can be used, say that caregiver, they need to care for themselves. They have surgery scheduled, knowing they won't be able to be in that caregiving role.
Do you do any work placing people into nursing home care facilities or Alzheimer's, dementia programs, day programs? Do you go that far in helping place them into another setting besides their home? Do you do that too sometimes?
So that's one of the things that the statewide respite care program can fund is an adult day program. There aren't too many in our region, so depending on where someone lives, that may or may not be available. So in terms of your previous question about funding, I guess that would be something I would add to the list is more adult day programs. I think they're great, and they really give a caregiver a good, long, several-hour break, and it's a great environment for someone with limitations, whether it's cognitive or physical, to go and spend time with other people and have some more cognitive stimulation, conversations, meet new people, all of those good things. We do help with placing people into long-term care facilities if that's what is needed. And that's usually a multi-step process, figuring out where the person wants to go, completing the application, figuring out a pay source. But there are people who have decided that that is the best option for them. And so we do assist with that as well.
So when they go into these day programs, like you're saying, this area of Eastern Connecticut doesn't have enough of those, is that what you're saying?
Yep.
And they're not getting on a bus to go outside of the area, are they sometimes?
I mean, we do help people go. There's actually an adult day program in Westerly. There's another one in Webster, Mass. So people who live in those areas do go outside of the state to attend adult day programs, but there just aren't very many in Eastern Connecticut.
Okay,
So.
and if there are, their transportation is taken care of, they're picked up and so forth.
Yep.
What about your relationship and the role of senior centers? I know people are going there during the day, and most of the people that are going there are healthier seniors in a sense, but I know some of them, like in Colchester, we have a program for early dementia, which is a wonderful memories care program. What is the relationship between the senior resources and the senior centers in educating them as to your availability and the programs that you have? Talk about that.
I'd say part of what we, like the Bureau on Aging asks of us as service navigators is to spend time doing that outreach. And we try to focus a lot on doing that outreach at senior centers so that not only do the municipal agents and senior center directors know who we are and how we can help them, but also how we may be able to help their, the clients and the seniors that come in that may not be able to get the help they're looking for from them, and they know that they can reach out to us as not just service navigators, but senior resources as a whole.
I guess my overall question always is, there's so many people out there hurting, and you feel it. So many people are in the shadows and not getting the services that they might be eligible for because they don't know about it. And so obviously the outreach and the education is so important. How many times do you get a call and say, oh, I heard your lecture at my senior center and I'm asking you a question? Do you hear that sometimes?
We hear that, and I think frequently we hear from senior center directors who say, okay, Mrs. Smith was in my office today. She has questions about X, Y, and Z. She's asking you to call her. So that is pretty frequent. I would say, at least 3 or 4 times a week, I get a call from a senior center connecting me with someone who's come in. So it's not necessarily they heard us speak, but the senior center directors then have all of that information.
Right. So an interesting question that I'm thinking, we probably don't know the answer, is what percentage of our senior population of 60 and above, or 65 and above, whatever, are taking advantage of the senior center programs in their communities? Probably a small percentage.
That's
I-
tough because I
Yeah.
think also more and more people 60, 65 and older are still working. And so
true.
it's not, it's a different, it's a different world than it was maybe 30, 40 years ago when the senior centers were the places that people went for connections. A lot of us are still
Right.
working. So
But even so, I think I'm still asking how many people are at home with a problem
too
where
many.
they could use
Yes.
even a senior center or some help, but they just don't have access or the knowledge or the information. I guess that's always been my thing. You need money, but you also need education.
Yes.
Because I started working with senior resources in the advisory council, and I'm a person of some education, I think, and I was amazed at the variety of programs and what was available, and that so many of them are not income-based, that you don't need to
Yeah.
qualify financially for some. And I was amazed, and so I'm thinking, if I'm amazed, how many other people out there are not aware of everything that the senior resources community offers? You know,
Probably too many people, and one of the things we've been trying to do is do some in-services at places of employment. So
Good idea,
the
yeah.
lunch and learn concept where people, bring their bag lunch and we go and speak for an hour from 12 to 1 or whatever, and let people, younger people who are probably caregivers or will be caregivers, they don't know it yet, and let them know what's out there. So
Right.
we do try to do some of that education. I think it's hard when people want to stay independent and they're worried that anyone becoming involved is going to take away their independence. And I think that's where, to what Beth said before, we look at what someone's goals are. So if their goal is to stay independent and not be connected to too many services, and all they want is maybe a home delivered meal, we'll do that. We won't insist that they do other things. And so it's really, it's a person-centered philosophy of we go with what the person is asking for, not what
we think
might
we
do
need, right.
or, So, I think that's the other nice thing,
Yeah,
that we
yeah.
really can honor the person's wishes. And if someone says, thanks for the info, go away,
Right.
we can do that.
Sure. So, Beth, how often are you out at a lunch and learn or at a senior center or doing something to provide education for your services?
Quite often. I mean, probably at least once a week, if not more. So we have several different ways in which we do that. We're reaching out and setting up like at senior centers to spread the word, and we have something on our website where people can request for someone from Senior Resources to come out and talk and present on a certain topic.
What's the website?
www.seniorresources.
I want the studio.
EC.
Yeah. Put the phone number that we said before for senior resources. Maybe find the website address and put that up also. But so many, well, I don't. Maybe more seniors now are using the internet, but
Yeah.
in the past that was some place where you maybe couldn't reach them.
I think more people are. Yeah.
What about like an op-ed articles in the newspaper, to talk about your services, or maybe even a little ad in the new people. Some people still read the newspapers. A
Right.
little ad saying, "Senior Resources Service Navigated. What's your question?" Something like that.
That's a good idea. We have done press releases,
Yeah.
and we do reach out on social media. So we have an Instagram account, we have a Facebook account, and we have a YouTube channel. So there are social media
Sure.
ways for people to access information about us. But the op-ed is an interesting idea.
Yeah.
I don't.
Or even the
think we've done
newspaper
that.
should let you every week say, "Here's a problem on a caregiver. This is what we did.
Right.
Call us." And next week a different subject.
Yep.
I mean, just anything to get people's interest in,
In what we
tonight.
do, and
Yeah.
and maybe answer questions that would apply to them and help them understand that
Yeah.
we can help with those
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Before we turn, we have some slides that will kind of summarize a lot of what we've talked about. Any other important issues that you want to bring up? Do you find that most people are most in need of help?
I feel like it's in our name. People really are looking for that navigation, that helping them figure out how to get from point A to point B. and whether they're solo agers or the caregiver themselves is
Yeah.
calling us, it's just a very arduous process sometimes,
Okay.
trying to get to those.
Is there anything
goals.
else that you need to say about your Service Navigator program that you haven't said so far? Can give you.
I don't think so. I mean, I think our slides cover the,
Okay, we're
the
gonna go to
specifics,
those
so
now. Okay,
we can
great.
go to those. But
Yeah, sure.
I think we've done a pretty good job with the general notion of what we do.
Exactly,
and
I think
how
so,
people
too.
can access
Okay.
us.
Studio, here we are, Senior Resources Agency on Aging. Next slide. Joan, there you are.
That's me.
Beth, there you are. There you are. Now, BSW means Bachelor's in
Bachelor's.
Social Work, and
Right.
LMSW means
Licensed Master of
Masters
Social,
in Social Work.
Yep.
Okay. And what does this talk about, Beth?
So this is just showing the map of Connecticut and how the 5 agencies on aging split all the towns and which agency covers which town.
Okay.
And so we cover 56 towns in the eastern part, so all of Windham County, New London County, Middlesex County.
Right. So it shows how the state is divided, and our
Yep.
Easton is one of the biggest areas because we have smaller population but bigger area to cover. And there's that number again, 860-887-3561 that you need to call if you are in that service area. Okay, next. All right, you take that one, Joan.
So the state of Connecticut funds 2 full-time service navigators at every agency on aging, and that has been sort of a transition from a pilot program started by Aging CT, which is a collaboration of the 5 agencies on aging, and the state supported the program, so that's where we are now with 2 per region, which is great. I mean, Beth and I are never bored, and I think it's just the volume of the work that we do indicates that it really is a needed service. So as we talked about, we offer person-centered assistance, so we really do talk to the individual about what their needs are and what their goals are, and then we work through 4 core services that have been identified by the State Bureau on Aging.
It must be pretty gratifying when you solve someone's problem. Have you gotten flowers, gifts from people?
We get a lot of
Yeah.
thank you notes.
Thank you notes.
And I've been doing this for a long time, and this is my favorite job thus
Right.
far in my career.
Yeah,
So
I can see that
Yeah.
because when you solve a problem
it's great.
that's been nagging at someone for
Yeah.
a long time, that's a great service. Okay.
It is.
Let's go to the next slide. All right, Beth, you take over.
So as Joan just mentioned, we have 4 core services that we can provide as service navigators. And benefits counseling is basically just us determining and kind of screening individuals when they call us to see what supports and programs that they may qualify for.
Okay. Next, Joan.
So we help with application assistance. We have a list here, the home care program for elders, other community-based options and waiver programs.
What is a waiver program? Explain what that is.
So when states want to use Medicaid funding for things other than direct medical care, they apply for a waiver. And so any of the home care services that are funded by Medicaid are through a waiver. So the Connecticut Home Care Program for elders, and there's a mental health waiver, there's an acquired brain injury waiver, there are some waivers for people who are younger with certain disabilities. So all of those have applications that have to be submitted through the DSS process.
And that's what you help with,
Yep.
obviously. It sounds like something difficult for the regular person to do.
It's kind of like a tax return. It's a lot of questions and a lot of pages, and it's intimidating. I mean, I think,
Right.
we do them frequently, so it's not hard.
It's like going to somebody to do your taxes
Yeah,
every year.
pretty much. It is. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, next. That same slide. Go back to that. Yeah, because Joan didn't talk about all of that. Go
So
ahead.
we help people with the applications to programs at Senior Resources, the caregiver respite programs, the Medicare Savings Program, which helps with payment of the Part B premium for Medicare that's normally taken out of the Social Security check. We help with the Medicaid, the long-term care Medicaid application that is required for the waiver programs and also for nursing home care. We help with the SNAP applications for
All right,
food
let's
benefits.
go. SNAP is food stamps, right?
It was
What does that stand
formerly known
for,
as
SNAP?
food stamp.
Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program.
What?
There you go.
But it's the acronym for whatever the food stamp program is, and we
Right.
know from what the Congress has done that they've cut it. So how do you supplement that? What do you do?
We don't know yet. I think it will be determined by the state legislature how they want to address that. Is the state going to find money to help supplement those benefits if the federal money is gone? We don't know yet.
Okay, but
I think there's a lot of mystery still.
Okay, but we want people to know that if you're somebody who's going to be hurt by the cuts, call Senior Resources, and maybe there are some other programs in the community that can help fill in some of these losses. We don't know yet.
We don't know
We're
yet,
waiting.
but we will be current on what the changes are,
Right.
what the impact is, and what the strategies are to address
Right.
the lack of any benefits. I don't know, I see probably half a dozen emails every day about what the cuts may bring and how those things
People
will be
are worried.
addressed.
People
So
are worried.
people are worried, but people are also trying to figure out how to reduce the impact on individuals who need help. So there's a lot of thinking behind the scenes, and I think that's what we will be
Right.
kept informed about.
Okay,
So
go back to that same slide. We're not quite finished with it. Thank you. So again, the caregiver respite, you talked about that a while, but so if I'm a caregiver, can you send me away for the weekend? Can I go?
I cannot send you away for the weekend, but I can arrange for care for the person you take care of.
Okay,
So if you want to go
Right.
to your granddaughter's wedding and you're the caregiver for your aging mother,
Right.
we can arrange for
can
her
do
to
that.
get care so that you
Okay.
can go.
all right.
But we can't pay for you to go to the
Okay,
wedding.
all right. I was just trying. Okay, go back again. We're almost done with that slide one more time. Thank you. Housing applications. So is there a lot of affordable housing available in our community, Beth, that people can apply for?
No, unfortunately, no is the answer. That is probably one of the biggest needs that
Yes.
we hear from people is need for housing and then the lack of affordable housing. And it's not just in our state, unfortunately,
Yeah,
it's
there are some
nationwide.
senior
But
living communities. I know in Colchester we have a few, and they are around. But you're saying there's so what? Since we don't have them, what's happening? People are not able to afford to stay in their homes. They're not able to afford the mortgage or the insurance or the taxes. And
yeah, and unfortunately, we're hearing more about seniors in our communities who are homeless. And
homelessness. Is homelessness a big? We know that in some of our great cities, we see homelessness is a problem, or the homeless seem to gravitate to the cities because that's maybe where they can get food services and shelter, perhaps. What about in our community, Joan? Do we have a homeless problem, and Senior Resources seen that?
So I think the definition of homeless is wider than people that you might see on the street, which is what people think of immediately. I hear from people who are moving from place to place, couch surfing, so to speak, that they're living with one child for a week and then a friend for a week. They don't have a place to land. They are essentially homeless. So those are the people I think that we hear more from, are people who have a roof over their head, but it's not consistent, it's not theirs, and they don't have a place to keep their belongings, get their mail, get their prescriptions. I mean, there are a whole variety of issues related
So
to
you're
that.
identifying this as a very big issue.
Yeah.
Housing.
Housing is huge.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Affordable housing.
Yeah, affordable housing.
Yep.
I think we can go on. Beth, options counseling. What is that?
so this options counseling is kind of like the person-centered planning that Joan had mentioned. So it's when we're working with an individual who may have multiple needs. We kind of sit down with them, figure out what their needs are, what their ultimate goals are, and kind of put a plan in place and help them apply for things and do what they need in order to meet the goals that they're looking to achieve.
Okay. Next slide. Joan?
This is what we talked about. This is talking to senior center directors, medical social workers, housing managers, a variety of people in the community to try to help meet people's needs. And a lot of times it's sort of the divide and conquer approach. Okay, Mr. Smith needs help with 10 things. And so the senior center director and I may look at the list and divide it up so that we can accomplish the goals faster and figure out what's the most efficient way to meet someone's needs.
So you mentioned provide counsel to municipal agents. We
Yep.
want people to understand that every town is supposed to have a municipal
Yep.
agent for the aging.
Correct.
And oftentimes it might be the person who directs the senior center. Sometimes it could
Yes,
be.
and even if
Yeah.
a town doesn't have a senior center, there should be a municipal agent anyway, who may work limited hours, but should be available to help answer questions and refer
people
back
to you.
to us.
Right.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, next slide. Okay, what is that about, Beth?
So we created a few slides that just kind of demonstrate the common calls that we get. There's a lot of advertisements out there for people, on TV saying, get paid to care for the person that, your family member. So we'll get those calls that say, I'm caring for my mom. How do I get paid to do that? And so when we get those calls, we're trying to figure out, people don't realize necessarily that the way that happens is that the person they care for is the one that has to apply and get approved for a program that can pay them as the caregiver. So we kind of explain that situation, and then we do a little bit of that benefits
so there are
counseling.
programs that will pay a caregiver.
Yeah,
What
so-
kind of? Well, I know that there are the state. Connecticut has a family leave program,
Right.
paid family leave. So for a certain period of time, you can take time off and still get your pay.
If you're employed.
If you're employed, yes.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you're not employed, so there are programs that will. What is their pay like? Is there a pay scale? What is it like?
I honestly, I don't know what the current rate is. So programs through the Department of Social Services, those waiver programs, quite often have the option where if they have a person in their life that is their caregiver, they can get paid through the program. It's called self-directed care. So instead of that agency setting up and contracting with an agency to come in and provide the care, their daughter or granddaughter or so forth can be paid through the program.
But the person who needs care has to make the application for
And
that
has to qualify.
Right.
to qualify.
And none of the DSS Connecticut state funded programs will pay a spouse. So some states do, Connecticut does not. So a spouse,
Spouse doesn't count for some of these programs.
right,
Needs
correct.
to be an outside person.
Well, or a
Another
family member, a
another
sibling,
family
a
member.
child,
Okay.
or a parent even, but not a
Right.
spouse.
Okay. All right. Back to that slide. Oh, the next one. Okay, Beth, you same vein. We sort of talked about this.
Yeah,
didn't
so this
we?
is just another common call that we get from
Right.
a caregiver,
We talked
family
about
member. Right.
potential
Yeah.
services and support groups. All right, Joan, it's hard to read. Tell us what's that all about.
So this is
Roadmap.
a roadmap that the state of Connecticut developed to try and guide caregivers and individuals who've been diagnosed with dementia on what they can do, how they can reach out to different organizations in the community and find support. The state does have a dementia care specialist, and there are quite a few of them throughout the state. So depending on where you live, you would call the 800 number and it should connect you with the resources that are local to you. And these roadmaps are available at any of the agencies on aging.
Okay. And so you deal a lot with that? Have you had a lot of calls in that? Yeah.
Yep. And again, it depends where someone lives, what supports are available in their direct community, what they're looking for. Do they want ongoing assistance? Do they want the diagnosis confirmed? Do they want to explore medications? Do they want to explore clinical trials? I mean, there are so
Right.
many
So they have to call
different
you.
options.
They have
So
to call
it's
you and
really
check it out.
right and figure out what they want and then how to
Right.
access those
Okay,
things.
next slide. Okay, Beth.
So this is a list of some of the other common calls that we get.
Yeah, we've sort of touched on a lot of these.
right,
What
right.
programs offer respite to a caregiver? How do we get help paying for home care? We talked about that. My parent needs to go to a nursing home. What do we need to do? What are good general resources for people as they age? And you can answer all of those questions, right? That's great. Next slide. Okay, Joan, what's that all about?
That's our brochure. So that's the brochure for service navigation that we hand out at fairs, at senior centers, wherever.
So that's your brochure.
That's our brochure. We like to include it in the PowerPoint so that people know what to look for. If they're somewhere and looking at a table with a lot of things on it, that's what to look for. And the next
Okay.
slide is the inside of the brochure.
And I know that Senior Resources is celebrating that 50 years, so that's
Yep.
that's good. All right, the next slide. So Beth, why don't you summarize that? Who are you? Who are you?
Who are we at Senior Resources, or?
No, this is a
That's the
part
inside of our
your
brochure.
I'm
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, it talks about who you are. You've already kind of talked about that. And find what you need. I think this is just the Senior Resources
Website. It's the
Yeah.
homepage of our website. Yep.
homepage too. And this is interesting. So now we get a few slides about some of the other things happening at Senior Resources besides the Service Navigator program. This is going to be a 2025 Healthy Living Expo on September 10th at the Dodd Stadium Concourse at Stott Avenue in Norwich. So are you guys going to that?
Yep.
Yeah, so what
We will
kind of
be
things
there.
are going to happen there?
It's great. There's usually there are between 60 and 70 different vendors who come with tables, and people can walk around, talk to different organizations that support seniors and people with disabilities. So different agencies, organizations, nursing homes, towns, providers of services, equipment. It's really
So a lot of
great
vendors, but a
resource.
lot of people in the regular people in the community coming also.
People in the community can come and walk around and stop at every table and talk to people, get brochures, business
Great,
cards,
okay.
information. It's a one-stop shop. So
Right.
you can go in and meet all kinds of different people in, walking around.
So it's important
at
to
Dodd
go to that.
Stadium.
You'll learn.
It's-
You'll
yes.
learn a lot. You'll
They're great.
bring home a lot of brochures, a lot of
Yep.
pencils, a lot of candies. I know. Yeah, and
yep.
a lot of bags that
Yep.
they have advertising what they do. Okay, let's go on a couple more slides. I just want to. This is another. This is just a. It's hard to read, but it's a newsletter that Senior Resources sends out every month on the internet, and
So,
telling
and-
about their programs.
If someone's interested in news you can use, it is a monthly newsletter. They can call the office and ask to be put on the mailing list. It goes out by email only, but it's a great resource.
Okay, next slide. Just showing some of the programs. Here again, one of the programs that you talked about, Grandparents Raising Grandchildren Support Group. Isn't that great? Next slide. New to Medicare. Again, you guys do, there's Laura Cruz. We've interviewed her and had a program on how to access the Medicare program with so many choices. What do you do? That's another great service from Senior Resources. What else? Next slide. Adult Anxiety Therapy Group. I mean, this is a huge issue in our culture, I think, right? Do you come across, have you helped people with mental health issues too?
We refer people out. This group is actually a Generations Family Health Center group. And so when we get calls from people looking for mental health supports, we can refer them to other agencies, but that's not one of the things that we can provide.
Okay, but this is another agency in the community that's very useful for you to
Right.
refer to. Okay, next. Even taking care of your pets. I mean,
Right.
this is an
We have-
old, this time, well, no, Wednesday, July 23rd, that has passed, but we just wanted to show that you can even get help with your pets.
Yep.
Next.
So these are all things that we refer people
Caregiver
out
Support
to.
Group,
Yep.
again, from the UCFS, another community of helpers in our area.
Yep.
Right. Next, are you ready? Okay, what are take charge of your life, sign up for a free 6-week workshop, Live Well. Now,
Yep.
Senior Resources is sponsoring this, or?
Yes, we provide the staff to run the programs and help people
So
with
is this
all of these different
workshop
things.
online, or do you have to go in person?
It depends. There are
Okay.
some online ones and there are some in-person ones. So
Okay.
it would be calling Lori Rogalski, the
Okay,
contact
so
person
it's
there.
for caregivers and everyone.
Yep.
Again, another, same from generations now, another anxiety and depression therapy group you can refer people to.
Correct.
Next. All right. Again, there is a whole group, and we interviewed a couple of people who work in the food,
Claudia and Chris.
Claudia and Chris.
Yep.
And they help you to determine what's the best diet for you or seniors as you're growing older. And here it is, what's in season for July. Very important to have healthy lifestyle. Again, SNAP benefits, those are the food stamp benefits.
Yep.
And what's eligible and what you can do, how you can buy with SNAP, what products you can do, and so forth, and what your income, what the eligibility is.
Right.
And finally, another one, you have speaker services. I can call up and I can say, look at all the topics.
Yep.
Aging Answers, Medicare Boot Camp, Senior Medicare Patrol, which talks about making sure there's no fraud in the Medicare
Correct.
program, how you can help with that, healthy eating, dementia friends, mind over matter, powerful tools for caregivers, live well, self-management, and so forth. Are you on the speakers panel? So we can call and we can get speakers. All right.
Yep.
So this has been great. I want to give you each a couple of seconds to give us some final thoughts on the importance of your program and how you wish more people could access this and why it's so good. Beth, you start.
Yeah, so I get a lot of calls from people who are just starting the process, and they say, so-and-so told me to call you. And, you know, we talk about what they're looking to connect to, how that process, you know, what the process would look like. And a lot of times, you know, people are just saying, I'm so glad that we spoke. Now I really understand, because people go online and they search things, there's just an overload of information. So we have the ability to really break things down and make it easier for people to understand the steps they need to take.
Yep.
So, Joan, final thoughts.
If you have questions, call us.
Number
I think that's
8.
860-887-3561. And if you let the receptionist know your basic topic that your question is about, she will send you to the correct extension. If you need to leave a voicemail, again, it's the same premise, that just leave a brief topic that you're interested in, and someone will call you back.
Okay, great. So I want to thank Beth and Joan for a great show explaining the Service Navigator program for senior resources. Stay tuned again for more information on the various services in our community, how important it is for us to support our seniors and all the younger people who support them.
Yes.
Right? Okay, see you
Agreed.
next time on Talk Back. Bye.